In a bold and highly controversial statement that has sparked heated debate across West Africa, a prominent Pan-African influencer has publicly warned Burkina Faso's transitional president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, that his continued leadership without an electoral mandate could lead to his eventual downfall. The warning, issued during a live social media broadcast, has split public opinion. Some view it as a necessary critique in the defense of democratic values, while others see it as an insult to a revolutionary leader who has done more for national sovereignty and African unity than any elected head of state in recent memory. Regardless of where one stands, the remarks have reignited critical questions about power, legitimacy, democracy, and revolutionary leadership in Africa. Who said it and why now? The message came from Kwame Sika, a widely followed Pan-African commentator based in Ghana, known for his hard-hitting YouTube videos, TikTok clips, and Instagram reels that tackle issues of African liberation, corruption, and neocolonialism. With over 2 million followers across platforms, Sika is seen by many young Africans as a voice of conscience. In a recent viral live session titled "The Danger of Power Without Elections," Sika addressed Traoré directly. "Captain Ibrahim Traoré, I respect your boldness. I support your fight against imperialism. But let me be clear, if you continue to lead as an unelected leader, you will be removed, and not by the West, but by your own people. Africans want freedom, but they also want democracy." His comments triggered a digital firestorm, garnering over 500,000 views in under 48 hours, with thousands of comments both defending and attacking the statement. Traoré's rise, revolution over ballots. To understand the context of this warning, we must recall how Traoré came to power. In September 2022, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a young military officer, led a coup that ousted Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Damiba. The move was justified by failures in security and perceived Western influence over the nation's affairs. Traoré, who was just 34 years old, quickly became a symbol of anti-imperialist resistance, rejecting French interference, embracing local traditions, and calling for a united, self-reliant Africa. Since then, he has refused to rush into elections, arguing that restoring security and sovereignty must come before ballots. His government has nationalized strategic resources, rebuilt infrastructure, and strengthened military ties with Mali, Niger, and Russia. To many, Traoré is a modern-day Thomas Sankara, a bold young leader taking risks that few elected leaders would dare. But to others, his refusal to hold elections raises red flags. The influencer's critique, genuine or calculated? Kwame Sika insists his comments were not meant to attack, but to remind Traoré of the fine line between revolution and authoritarianism. We don't want another Mobutu. We don't want another military man who forgets the people. Traoré started with the people. He must remain with the people. And that means elections, transparency, and limits on power. Sika also warned that revolutionary legitimacy fades over time, especially when people begin to suffer or when insecurity continues. Your legitimacy is strong now, Traoré. But 1 year from now, if the schools are still empty, if food prices rise, if soldiers are still dying, your people will no longer see you as a liberator. They will see you as a dictator. The influencer's statement resonated with some civil society organizations in Burkina Faso who have quietly expressed concern over the indefinite postponement of elections. The public reacts. Loyalty versus democracy. Social media exploded after the video, revealing a sharp divide among Africans, particularly between the older generation of activists and a younger, more radical audience. Supporters of Traoré say, "Democracy never brought us anything but puppet governments. We finally have a leader who puts Burkina Faso first." Kwame Sika sits comfortably in Ghana. He doesn't know what we face here. Critics of Traoré ask, what's the plan? Will power return to the people? How is Traoré different from the leaders he criticizes if he rules without elections? Revolution is not an excuse for permanent military rule. The influencer himself responded to the backlash by saying, "If you love a leader, you must hold him accountable. Silence is not loyalty, It's betrayal. Can Traoré hold power without elections? This debate touches on one of the oldest contradictions in African politics, the clash between revolutionary legitimacy and democratic legitimacy. Traoré came to power with popular support, not from ballots, but from bold, anti-colonial action. His actions, expelling French forces, nationalizing mines, and restoring dignity, have earned him a kind of moral authority among many citizens. But moral authority has limits. As security challenges persist, and as economic hardships bite, even the most adored leaders can find themselves isolated if they do not institutionalize legitimacy. Analysts warn that while Traoré's intentions may be noble, the lack of a clear transitional roadmap may eventually undermine his revolution from within. He must transition from being a liberator to a builder of systems, says Dr. Awa Traoré, a political scientist in Bamako. And that means building democratic institutions, not just popular slogans. Is there a middle ground? Some propose that Traoré does not need to immediately hold national elections, but rather establish a clear transitional charter, set a timeline for elections, even if in 2 to 3 years, form a civic oversight committee with local stakeholders, and hold local elections as a starting point. This approach would allow him to maintain control during the transition, while reassuring citizens and the international community that he is not seeking power indefinitely. What this means for Africa. This situation is not unique to Burkina Faso. Across the Sahel, a new generation of military leaders turned reformers in Mali, Guinea, and Niger are redefining what leadership looks like in Africa. They have rejected old models and in doing so, inspired hope. But they also face the risk of repeating history, where power begins as revolutionary and ends as repressive. Kwame Sika's warning may not be diplomatic, but it reflects a truth Africa must confront. Without democratic safeguards, even the most beloved revolutions can rot from within. Conclusion: a test of integrity. President Ibrahim Traoré now finds himself at crossroads. His leadership remains deeply admired, but time is no longer on his side. He can choose to remain a symbol of raw, revolutionary defiance, or evolve into a foundational leader who builds institutions that outlive him. For now, the people still chant his name. But as Kwame Sika said, charisma fades, guns jam, crowds disperse. But when you lead with the will of the people, that power lasts forever. Only time will tell which path Traoré chooses, and whether, as his critics warn, the revolution will build a nation or consume itself.